Good morning, Woke AF Nation. Folks, I don't need to do any type of introduction for the man that we have all seen and heard from over the last 2+ years. I don't even know what time zone we are in right now, or what wormhole that we are in with COVID. Dr. Fauci, thank you so much for making the time to join Woke AF.
Thank you.
Over the past couple of days, the past couple of weeks, we have seen a number of mitigation efforts being changed and a bunch of different guidelines being offered up by the CDC. Can you offer us some clarification as to why we are seeing these moves being made now by our governors with, rolling back mask wearing indoors, rolling back the need to show vaccination cards, things that were actually used in order to kind of relieve our anxiety, find ways to kind of normalize this very abnormal situation? Why are we making these shifts now?
Well, there's good scientific reason to do that. There are different phases of what we've gone through over the last couple of years. The rather fulminant pandemic phase, which just, a few months ago, we were dealing with almost 1 million cases a day, 900,000 cases a day. The hospitals were threatened in their capacity. The deaths were very high. We've turned the corner, at least now, with this Omicron variant. The Omicron variant was very challenging, much more transmissible than Delta, a little bit less virulent in that many people had already been vaccinated and or had gotten infected. But what we've seen over the last several weeks is a peak and then a very sharp, steady decline in cases, particularly in hospitalizations. And right now it's felt that given the direction of where this is going, which is in the right direction, and given the fact that the metrics for guidelines about things like masking requirements in indoor spaces, including schools, according to the new metric, which is driven much more by how much severe disease there is rather than how many infections there are, because many of the infections are without symptoms. Many of them have mild symptoms. So that the CDC has made, I think, the appropriate decision of saying, if you look at the map of the country on a county by county basis, if you count just cases, then 90+% of the country would fall under the umbrella of the guideline to continue restrictions like masking in indoor places, masking in schools. However, with the new metrics going in the right direction, and given the fact that we now are prepared, we have vaccines, we have boosters, we have antivirals, we have hundreds of millions of testing available easily for people, and we have hundreds of millions of masks for those who need it, it is felt that we can begin to take those gentle steps, as it were, towards normality, which we all want to be at. So really, it's a turning of the corner. Having said that, Danielle, we still must always be prepared to recognize and respond to any new variant were it to come along. We're going in the right directions. We can pull back, but we can't say it's over. There's no chance of getting another variant. We've got to be prepared to respond to another variant.
So this is the question that I really want to ask, and obviously you're going to be asked by everyone, which is, if we lull ourselves back into this place of quote unquote normalcy, and people get comfortable with not having the mask, not showing vaccinations, not needing to social distance and all of these things, if a new variant, which is more likely than not to rear its head, how likely is it that we're going to be able to pull people back from the normalcy that we're allowing them or saying that is available to them right now?
Well, that's part of the strategy if one looks at it and examines it carefully, is that it is what we call like a sliding scale.
Mm-hmm.
It's, people have made metaphors and saying that, when you're in a really severe rainstorm, you go out and you put your galoshes on, your raincoat, a hat, an umbrella. Then when the rain slows down, you may not have to have the galoshes and the raincoat, just an umbrella. And when it stops raining, you can put the umbrella down. However, when it starts to rain again, you take the umbrella out again. You put your raincoat on again. You put your galoshes on again. That's what we're saying. We want to go, and we are going in the right direction, but we need to be prepared to be able to recognize and quickly respond to the fact that there may be another variant. We can't be frightened and waiting for a variant and freeze ourselves where we are. We can approach normality as long as we keep in mind that we need to be able to recognize and respond to a variant if and when it occurs.
I love that analogy. I think to myself, though, funny enough, people don't protest the rain. And so they're more likely to put on galoshes when they need to because they don't see it as a political exercise. What do you say to the parents right now of young children that are under the age of 5 that aren't able to get vaccinated at this time, who still feel like they are in a vulnerable state because their children are not covered?
That's an excellent question that so many parents are asking who have children in that age group. And the answer to that is to do what you can to surround your children with people who are vaccinated and boosted. And when you're in a vulnerable situation, to wear a mask. We are trying now to get to the point where we don't need to have masks on children, but we want to make sure that the schools are safe. And this is what I refer to as communal responsibility. There are many people, for a variety of reasons, many of them are politically, I wouldn't say motivated, I don't mean motivated, but have a political tinge to it about not wanting to get vaccinated, saying, I'll worry about myself and I'll take care of myself and I'll take the risk. But when you're dealing with a transmissible virus, you have a personal responsibility to yourself and to your family, but you also have a responsibility to society. Because if you really want to make sure we put this virus, this outbreak in the rearview mirror, we can make a contribution by not giving the virus the opportunity to circulate among us. And you do that by getting vaccinated. Nobody likes to mandate or require things. We call upon the spirit of the American people to be part of a society and communal effort to crush this virus. And that's the reason why we practically plead with people to get vaccinated and to get boosted to protect themselves, their family, and their community.
You know, the other part of this pandemic, too, isn't just obviously the loss of life, but it is also the emotional health and the erosion of emotional health and mental health and well-being that we've seen across the country since the beginning of the pandemic. What are your thoughts about how, as a race to get to this normal, that we deal with the collective trauma that we've experienced in this country and around the world, and that getting back to normal will erase kind of the experience and the trauma that people are still holding and will be holding?
That's such a good point, Danielle. In fact, that's an important part of our comprehensive approach to dealing with this outbreak. You're absolutely correct. There have been scars, emotional scars, economic scars, mental health scars that people have had. We have got to, and we will, put resources into addressing mental health, developmental, and other issues with regard to COVID. It is a very important issue that we can't neglect. We know we've seen the detrimental effect of when kids are not allowed to be in school in person, number one. Number two, we've seen the stress on families who've lost their jobs because of the effect on the economy. Those are things we have to address. They're all part of the broad problem.
And finally, just last question. What do you say to the critics, Dr. Fauci, that are saying that the expedient nature that we are withdrawing the mitigation efforts are in time for midterms that are in a couple of months? What do you say to those people that are saying, isn't this interesting timing?
Well, I just think that's just absolutely not the case. We're guided by public health issues, by the science, by the data, by the evidence. That has always been the case. One of the important and unfortunate aspects of all of this is that the divisiveness in this country is so contraindicated when you're trying to deal as a nation together to fight one of the greatest challenges that we've had in well over 100 years. It's really unfortunate that there has been politicization of that. That does nothing but impede an effective response. That's too bad, unfortunately.
I want to thank you so much for your time and all of the work that you have done in trying to provide clear guidelines, facts, and steps to keep us all safe over the last couple of years. And we appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Danielle. It's good to have been with you. Thank you.
Thank you.